following podcast contains spoilers for Tim Burton's Edward Scissorhands.
Welcome to a world that only exists at night, where heroes are found in the strangest of places. A world populated by forgotten classics, video nasties, and the ahead of their time. Take a look with me at misunderstood geniuses and those who believe themselves to be so. This is the world of the Midnight Screening.
Welcome back, everyone, to Midnight Screening. Today's episode is Tim Burton's 1990 gothic classic, Edward Scissorhands. With me, as always, are my friends Josh.
Yo.
And I.
Bonjour.
Anyway,
So today we're talking about Edward Scissorhands. And I have a personal history with this movie. I don't know if you two do.
Depends how you define personal. I, as a person, have seen it in the past.
I mean, if that's as far as you go, then that's not exactly a story, is it?
I mean, we analysed, I don't know if you remember this, Nathan, we analysed this film, what was it, like, third year?
We did.
And, it just was an awful experience, because the film is just chock full of symbolism. So, who was it we had? Whoever our teacher was like, every scene pausing the film, being like, and this hand here symbolises how Edward has no hands. Oh, you see this hand, it symbolises, yeah.
That is, yeah.
Oh, we
I
had that
completely understand. Yeah, I've done Psycho multiple times in film.
The shower head symbolises an eye. It's like, no, symbolises she's dirty and she's
the shower
clean.
The shower head lines up with the eye and with the drain.
Yeah, it's
in Psycho.
It's dumb. It's like pausing right at the murder bit. What do you think this symbolises? The girl is dying. That's what it symbolises.
But yeah, because we did Edward Scissorhands, also Jaws. I think Edward Scissorhands is both the perfect movie for that and a terrible, terrible choice for it.
Because it's just chock full of, like, obvious, purposefully obvious symbolism.
That's it.
Stuff.
Yeah, it's a Tim Burton movie.
Yeah, people try and analyse it, thinking they're geniuses for pointing out how the castle on the hill is all dark, whereas the suburbs are nice and bright, showing the contrast in the two personalities. It's like, well, yeah, it's not subtle. You didn't have to point that out.
Two weeks ago, we spoke about David Fincher and how he likes to, he has his symbolisms and his satires, but he doesn't just spell it out for you. You gotta pay attention. Tim Burton is the antithesis to David Fincher. Tim Burton has no time for subtlety, and I love that about him.
But yeah, it does give his films a uniqueness. Because usually if you had that much obvious symbolism, what you'd end up with would just be something very bland. But
it helps that they're funny.
Yeah, but not
like he's a funny guy.
Yeah.
They're really these weird, especially this one. These are weird, like, satire. Yeah, like Twin Peaks with jokes.
Twin Peaks with jokes, sure. Let's go with that.
Although I think this is before Twin Peaks, actually.
I don't know, when did Twin Peaks come out?
Twin Peaks... Oh, same year.
Oh, what month, though?
I don't think that's enough time to be influencing each other.
8th of April was Twin Peaks. July was Edward Scissorhands.
So Twin Peaks was slightly before Edward Scissorhands?
Yep.
But yeah, like... I feel like explain a little bit about myself here, a little bit about
Your
how I ended up here.
To this movie.
Why I think why I kind of do what I do, where my sort of influences come from. This was my favourite movie for a long time as a child. A child, like primary school child. Which I think, having not seen it since I was a child, before doing this rewatch, really struck me as a strange thing to be watching on repeat.
As a 12-year-old, yeah.
Yeah. Like, I think I can't remember first seeing it. It must have been like 4 or 5. And then I think I kept watching it every other month until I was like 13, 14.
That is weird. I didn't like this film till I was in high school.
Really?
Yeah. I just think it was like really boring. It's such a quirky, like, weird film,
Yeah, it's a much slower film than I remembered.
Yeah.
Because it's boring?
I wouldn't even call it... Again, like, I'm going to put flat out now, I have a bias to this film, like because it's got such a strong connection personally. This was, I think, the final cut I made when we did our top 10 movies for What Now.
Mm.
Like I had to choose between this and Pulp Fiction, and that like gave me an aneurysm.
Wow.
Like
Okay, sure.
um, ultimately going with Pulp Fiction, but yeah, I wouldn't use the word boring. I would use slow. I wouldn't use boring because I think the quieter scenes are so chock full of like really darkly comedic dialogue.
Yeah.
You know, they're full of like that suburban like fake happy, everything's fine Stepford Wives type stuff, and I love that so much.
I definitely get what you're saying. I think with this film, the slowness is kind of what makes it it. I think,
Yeah.
if you hear there's going to be a film that's about a guy who gets found in a castle all alone that's not a real human with scissors for hands, you get a lot of preconceived thoughts about what's going to happen and what you're going to watch. I think this film kind of just brings life to the character, showing that that it's just people. Like, it's not some sort of other world where this being exists. It's just, casual 1950s American suburbia, and then
Yeah.
this thing happens. And I don't want to say Tim Burton's going for like more of a realism type of vibe, but he's not. He's made it
For
purposeful.
him.
Yeah, I think he's made it purposeful that the most out of the world thing in this is that character, and the rest of it is basically normal, just maybe a bit exaggerated at points.
Yeah. I feel like it's Burton's version of suburbia is like I've read a lot of like Tim Burton's poetry from before he was like pre-Batman. Um and he deals with a lot of this kind of themes there as well. I think it is that kind of the perception of living in suburbia if you don't like bright colors in sitcoms.
Yeah.
So like now what do? You know, everything becomes really boring and scary because there's just nothing left if you don't like those like few family values type concepts.
That makes sense. Guys, I'm starting to
And
think this
then
whole film's just a metaphor for how Tim Burton feels when he goes to a normal suburban rural town.
yeah, my one big issue with this film, Edward is totally just teenage Tim Burton. Like no one understands me. It's not a phase, mom. You know?
I'm just going to take a guess that Tim Burton didn't have scissors for hands. But again,
No, it's a metaphor because he was a god.
yeah, I can't promise that, but I've got a feeling.
No, yeah, this is definitely like, Tim Burton turned his like angsty teenage whinings into art.
Yeah.
Did did Tim Burton grow up in like a suburban neighborhood or something?
I think he did, yeah.
Because like you could almost see it as Edward's house is his house. Well, sorry, not his house, his room inside his house. Because I'm guaranteeing if he lived in a suburban house, his parents were probably like the suburban people. So his room was Edward's castle. And then the rest of suburbia,
Yeah.
the reason it's so exaggerated is that's because in the mind of a teenager, they're all like creepy. You know, the lady down the street, oh, she's Christian. No, she's not. She's crazy Christian. Then there's all the other people. Maybe yeah. I don't know. I just had
I
that
think
thought just now.
yeah, because Tim Burton as like a person just fascinates me because he is like, I think he's the gateway into like weird cinema, you know?
Yeah.
He's a very traditional filmmaker when you really get down to it once you've like gone past sort of the threshold of his work, but he is what a lot of like teenagers discover. But like he grew up in the suburbs to quite like a relatively well off family. He worked as an animator at like Disney.
Yeah, I think
You know,
what's
he's
important
just
to know is he grew up in suburb California and his dad worked in a cat themed gift shop. So he was
Mm.
probably very out of place for a lot of his childhood, I'm going to guess.
yeah. he had a very normal upbringing, but he also loves like weird avant-garde French cinema.
As you do.
So yeah, there's a clash there. I think a lot of his films deal with it. You know, both versions of Frankenweenie deal with that quite heavily. Beetlejuice.
Yeah.
I feel like there's an obvious one I'm forgetting.
Corpse Bride.
Corpse Bride, yes. Corpse Bride, yeah. I don't know why I didn't think of Corpse Bride.
You could probably argue the same with Nightmare Before Christmas.
Yeah, I almost feel like the awful Christmas at the end of that story is what he wishes Christmas was. Yeah, that's we've spoken a lot about Tim Burton here, which I mean, most likely end up coming back to at some point.
Probably. But yeah.
But let's go into the topic of this video in particular is Edward Scissorhands. So let's talk about. I want to talk about Johnny Depp
Okay.
Or
in this movie.
in the movie, okay, cool. That's
Yeah,
probably
as
good
Edward
that this time of the year, probably to avoid him as a topic, you know. But
Nah.
I feel like, yeah, he's an interesting man. But no, Johnny Depp as Edward Scissorhands. I'm trying to word my question almost, unless you've got a point.
I think that his acting in this film is so weird. I think it's weird. Every time I watch it, I'm both impressed by his acting, and I can also see that it wouldn't surprise me if he half-assed the whole thing, you know? I think he's either put a lot of effort into being that kind of like weird character in this, or he's just kind of half-assed it and not bothered properly thinking about what the character would do. So, yeah.
I think he's so childlike. You know, he's so like wide-eyed and naive the whole time.
He
Yeah.
definitely half-assed it.
Which
He definitely
I don't
half-assed
think
it.
I think it's not a Johnny Depp performance. Like it's not a Jack Sparrow or a Ed
but-
Wood or whatever.
Yeah, if you
But I
look
still
through...
think it's a good
Dark
performance.
Shadows?
No. Even Dark Shadows. Dark Shadows was
Sorry.
half-assed. If you look through Johnny's career, he'll have a couple of great movies, and they'll half-ass a movie, and then he'll go on a streak. Like, he was, like, before Edward Scissorhands, he went on a streak of Blooming Nightmare Before Elm Street, Crybaby, and Jump Street. He was on a streak. He did great in all those things, and then he half-assed Edward Scissorhands because he can.
I wouldn't say he half-assed it. But it's a good performance. It's just Edward isn't a character that needs a bravado. Like he doesn't need to be yelling at the rafters and doing the whole flamboyant stuff. He's a quiet, introverted, scared character, and I think he nails that.
I think a good way to point out how he's not really half-assed it is if you do watch it through the film, you can see the character of Edward Scissorhands progress and then de-progress towards the end as well, just like progress and how he's adapting to human life. Like at the start, you know, he does that kind of like shriveled up. He's got that kind of body language, that kind of idea going on, and you see for a bit he starts to open up, and the character seems to almost be a bit more normal. Especially, like, I think a good scene that I always forget is when what's the kid's name? Kevin.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think you're right.
Takes him to show and tell, and you got Johnny Depp somehow with keeping like the same straight face, doing like ninja poses and all that stuff.
Scene.
So, and then you see him again towards the end as he starts to like regain almost the really wide-eyed, but not as much the naiveness, but more
after the
fearfulness
break-in
and curiosity. Yeah, and you do see it. So I think a lot wouldn't surprise me if to find out he did half-ass it. I highly doubt that.
A lot of
that
it
is what
probably
he's done
does
with
have to do with they filmed this in California and he had to wear like layers upon layers of makeup and full leather under the California sun plus studio lights. So if there's any scenes where he stops it almost looks like he stops caring. I think it's because he can't breathe. Didn't he
That'd
throw
be a
up?
fair assumption, I think.
Isn't that the story? The scene where they're chasing him at the end of the movie, like they filmed it so many times that he like stood to the side, threw up, and then went went back to do it again. So I think
Yeah,
he
that's
was
it.
committed to the performance. Like,
I think that's literally like pour water down his throat because he was that dehydrated.
yeah, like this must
No.
have been a rough year for the guy. Which shows the I think the passion Depp had back then to, here's a weird thing we want you to do. Fine, like I'll do it.
He did weird things for Tim Burton.
For Tim Burton, yeah, this
Yeah,
was the
like
start of, to quote, is it something like a hot? This could be the start of a wonderful friendship. Because these two just did not stop making the weirdest stuff in either of their careers
and
together.
then brought in Helena Bonham Carter.
Yeah, the trifecta.
Yeah, they have some weird films together.
I was gonna say, the collaboration together led to my favorite of Tim Burton's movies and my favorite Johnny Depp performance in the same film is Ed Wood, which is the next film they did together, which I will definitely force into fitting our criteria at some point.
Of course you will, because that's what this show's about. You're
Yeah.
forcing us to talk about movies you like.
It's me gushing
No, 'cause
over movies. Yeah,
He's the
the whole point.
ringmaster. What he commands, we obey, apparently.
Yeah, and occasionally I'll treat you with an Ed Wood, and then every now and then I'll force you to watch Dragon Ball Evolution.
There's not another.
So we get our tuppence worth in every now
There's
and
not
again.
another film
It's
with
fine.
Dragon Ball Evolution.
Anyway, Edward Scissorhands. I think another thing in this film that I genuinely, love is Winona Ryder. Because I think everyone's ideas of Winona Ryder are for sure the gothic chick
Yeah.
in films, right? But for some reason, and for some glorious reason, Tim Burton decided, you know what, you can play the bubbly cheerleader with a blonde wig. And it is genuinely one of the greatest things in that movie to me is just the idea of Winona Ryder, of all people, being
I
that
think
character.
that shows how weird Tim Burton can be. That, Winona Ryder is normal. And it works.
Yeah, and she's
so
does it
good in
well,
this movie.
I think a large part of that as well will come down to like the overly weird script almost. Like although she's playing a normal character, she's playing it in a very weird.
It's normal
fashion,
for the world the
because
movie takes place in. If you throw that character in a different
yeah.
movie, she's crazy. But yeah, I think one of my favorite shots in cinema history, just down to the absurdity of it, is Winona Ryder just spinning around in the snow with that incredible Danny Elfman score. Like, it's so it's ridiculous.
Yeah,
this is where Nathan gushes over
I'm
Danny
gonna
Elfman.
you knew I was gonna
yeah. I'm just waiting for my time.
I've pleaded my case multiple times to Josh in the past. Danny Elfman is my favorite film composer, and I will hear no argument against that he is the best.
John Williams.
Like, I get that it should be John Williams or Hans Zimmer or I've forgotten the guy's name that did the Sixth Sense score, but whatever.
I'd put Elfman.
He does the same thing every time. But it just always works. Like, it's those violins in the choir, but it's got this atmosphere to it. It's creepy and gothic, but also really inviting. I think this is one of his best for it. Like, it's really wholesome and nice sounding, but with that when the movie gets dark, the music shifts just slightly to get that tone, and that's what I love so much about Danny Elfman, is he's always on that razor's edge of, this is nice and fun, but don't cross me. I mean, the guy did the Simpsons theme, it's got nothing to do with my point. I just wanted to point out that Danny Elfman did the Simpsons theme.
To be fair, I do like the song that they play during that snow bit.
It's so good.
It's always weird because I will always associate that song with Christmas for some reason. Like I know the reason.
The snow.
I can't listen to that song and not but to me that part of the score is definitely just a straight up Christmas song.
It's got that little, it's those violins. It's almost the opening to What's This from Nightmare Before Christmas. Which again makes sense because Danny Elfman, and the fact he kind of just writes the same song for every moment in every movie. But I think that's my favorite moment of Danny Elfman's score, and Danny Elfman's score being used perfectly in place. It's everyone understanding what we're doing here is a heightened, ridiculous thing, but we're gonna all pretend we're taking it seriously. And that includes Johnny Depp and Winona Ryder, and their performances in that moment, and Anthony Michael Hall, who comes in to attack them. You want to talk about weird casting choices? Forget Winona Ryder playing the normal girl. Anthony Michael Hall playing the bully.
Yeah.
I don't even think he's bad in it. I just can't not see him as his character in The Breakfast Club. I think he is. He is good in Edward Scissorhands. Again, like I don't think he's a bad choice. He's just in my head. He is.
Off-putting.
Yeah, he's the awkward character from the John Hughes movie.
I think that kind of adds to it as well to an extent. I think a lot of the casting in this film is almost purposefully done like that. You know, it almost lures you into a false sense of who people are.
Well, you could even say that with Johnny Depp at the time. He was like a heartthrob type actor, and then he's like a disfigured machine.
Yeah.
I think it's probably just part of the joke, I guess.
Yeah, I think it changes it up though, and I think it does that thing that Tim Burton's after, where it's kind of skewing with reality, because if you cast your traditional choices, it would make the film more normal and more actual normal than his wacky normal, if you know what I mean. So I think by doing the casting choices he did, especially with Winona Ryder and Anthony Michael Hall, what you're getting there is what is on surface you'd look at and just see these construed characters, but if you're looking at them as the characters and not the actors, you would get your average high schoolers in that kind of area. But then the character choice and the way they act, how it all kind of blends it all together to make the film what it is. I think there are a few small changes you can make throughout the whole film that would just change the entire feel of it.
Yeah, I mean, you could even like. This is gonna just be us talking about the weird casting choices. But this movie also features one of the most iconically creepy men in cinema. And he plays a sympathetic, like, good character.
Robert Englund?
Vincent Price.
Who?
Vincent Price.
Vincent Price.
Now you lost me.
The inventor.
He plays the inventor, yeah.
Who the heck? Why is he like a creepy? Like, where is he creepy?
Do you mean, where is he? He is Vincent Price.
No, I mean, I've never seen a movie with him in it. I don't think.
Hey, brush up on your classic horror. An icon of, like, B cinema horror. And he's, like, this really sweet old man.
Just Want You This Son.
Yeah, is that his final performance as well?
No, he was in a couple of things. I'm looking just on his IMDb here. 3 things after.
Yeah, nothing, like, big.
But nothing major. All
It's the Twilight years there. Oh, he narrated Ghost Ship. That's fun.
Well, something I want to ask is, Ty, you seem to have very different opinions than we do on this film. So
yeah, take the floor.
Go on,
take the
then.
floor.
What do you mean?
Why do you hate the film so
It's
much?
not that
Ty?
I hate the film. It's just not good, in my opinion. No, obviously, you guys have a very different, especially Nathan, have a very different history with this movie. maybe I don't know. I decided from a very from quite soon after the get go that I really didn't enjoy the film. Even to this day, like Ashley loves the film, and I just look at it and go, it's not great. But that's fine. People can have a personal thing with a movie. That's absolutely fine. It's just, if someone was to say to me, "Hey, do you want to watch Edward Scissorhands?" I'm like, "Nah, my head out. See you later." That's just me. But
Just interested though, like what, like, because it is a weird movie. Like I understand it. If you know, it's just what is it that doesn't like work for you?
I think just a bit of everything. It's just like, it's I understand Johnny Depp plays weird characters. Maybe the Winona Ryder thing did, like, tilt me a wee bit. It's like, weird. But it's just, the whole tempo of the film just, maybe it is because it's slow. Maybe. But then I like a bunch of other slow films. I really don't. It's really hard to put it into words. I just like sitting down and watching a film. You know, most of the time, unless you're watching certain films, it's it's a nice experience, and especially like Edward Scissorhands. I believe like the main focus it to be like a blooming like a nice film, like a guy like getting accepted into society, kind of. Even though it's no, even though
until it's not.
until it's not. It's just the little things like, hey, you just met a guy with really sharp fingers. I'm gonna put him on a waterbed. Hey, I'm a horny housewife. I'm gonna try and do a guy with really sharp fingers that could literally murder me if one wrong move. Oh, hey, I'm a police officer. This guy's just physically attacked a young boy. I'm just going to stop. Going to let him run into the castle that's really close to the neighbourhood I'm meant to be patrolling.
I think, yeah, you do bring up a good point.
Just something.
I get this.
I think you're trying to.
I'm trying to.
You're trying to apply logic to this film.
I was going to
No,
say,
I'm not
yeah.
trying to apply logic. I'm not trying. Maybe, yeah, a little bit, because this film, it's not so out the box that you can't apply logic to it. Like, applying logic to a film like blooming Inception or something like that, or Tenet, trying to employ logic to Tenet, probably pointless. Or Godzilla. Don't apply logic to Godzilla. It's a giant nuclear dinosaur. Don't apply logic to it.
Well, that's the thing though.
I think
is those movies I think do probably make more logical sense if you are willing to sit down
I've tried
and
to
like
apply
analyze
logic to
them.
Godzilla.
Yeah.
It's impossible.
Well, like,
but here's the thing though, Ty. In that movie, they apply their own logic to an
That's
extent.
it.
They creating backstories and things that, although it's not physical, real world logic, in that sense of that world, it is logic. Where in this film, Tim Burton doesn't even bother to try and explain how Edward Scissorhands was made. He's just like, there was an inventor, he was good at his thing,
Yeah.
so he wanted a kid, so he made one, right? He doesn't delve into that because that's not what the
He
film's
was a kid,
about.
though.
And I think what you're
He
talking
made
about
a
is,
fully grown man. He wasn't looking for a child.
but he's also not a man. He's more a machine. But again, what's happening here is your problem is like, why would they try and do this with the Scissorhands man? Why would they do that? It's I think trying to apply way too much like real world logic into it all, and
Because the film is like,
yeah, I don't know. I think
it's
that
an
might
exaggerated
be taken away
version
from
of
it.
real world.
it's a very heightened reality.
Very heightened. Like, it is. They took normal bog standard suburbia, and some suburban neighbourhoods are like this. There's a crazy Christian lady. It is like a hairdresser's. Like, everyone talks to everyone about everything. It is a lot like that. But if you're going to bring a world where it's just even slightly heightened sense of reality, you're going to have to expect people to like analyze it like a real world thing. It's not that crazy to think a guy could create a guy. Like, you can create a machine. Yeah, you can.
Can I present you with my having had this movie as a big part of my life for well over a decade, my crazy theory as to what it all actually means?
Okay.
Right. I don't think I'm going to blow anyone's mind by saying I think it's a metaphor. Right?
No way.
I think we were all on the same page there. But rewatching it this time round, and it might just be because I'll date the recording a little bit. We are very much in the midst of the conversation around that Lil Nas X video right now.
Are we?
Yeah, you know that.
And the shoes. Don't forget the
I
shoes.
know about
the
the
shoes
shoes.
that-
I don't know what the hell you're talking about
the-
the video.
The video where he gives Satan a lap dance.
Oh, I heard about that. Oh yeah, how he's getting sued by Nike.
Yeah, like
well done, mate. Fucking idiot.
I bring that up as just
Seriously.
a recent example of this
Okay.
exact thing
Yeah.
happening.
You think it's
Quite
a
a while
metaphor
after
for
Edward Scissorhands
Satanism?
came out. Not Satanism, inherently, but the idea that so what happens in Edward Scissorhands is he's a weird thing, right? He's a weird person who's then brought into the mainstream suburban context. After a little while, they're all concerned and confused, but then they accept him. They all love him. And then the second he's remotely dangerous because he's been corrupted by them, they all act like they never wanted him here in the first place, and he's evil, and he's shunned, and then he just goes away. I think that could be applied to, like, the conservative reaction to a lot of, like, controversial music and film and things like that, and the way that these things end up becoming to the point where conservative Christians can look at them and be like, oh, this is problematic and dangerous, and all the kids have it and see it because it was pushed up on a pedestal by the same group of people a few months earlier. But now it's dangerous, you know?
Yeah.
Like,
It's
and that
just,
sort of self-fulfilling cycle of creating something for you so you can be offended, so you can be the hero.
yeah. It's society. It is a metaphor
Um,
for society. Society tried to force you to live within their boundaries, and once you don't, you're dangerous and should be eliminated. But
yeah, because I find it interesting being by Tim Burton because, I mean, if you want to look at a filmmaker that in the late 80s was completely embraced by the mainstream entirely, but also seen as like the spawn of Satan, you've got the guy that did Beetlejuice and Batman 89. Like,
yeah,
you know, like I think it's interesting to me that this came out even before Batman Returns, because it's almost his way of saying, you know, I didn't make the action figures, right? I made the movie.
well,
Like,
what do you mean by
you
that?
did, you, like, because the Tim Burton Batman movies are, they're controversial because they're violent and depressing and weird, and then they had, like, McDonald's Happy Meals, you know, made for them
I mean,
and targeted towards children.
if you look at the comics, it literally starts off with two people getting murdered.
No, yeah, that's it. Like, it's an acceptable version of Batman, sure, but like people, they become controversial because if they're marketing towards younger kids, and they're not kids movies.
Right.
And I feel like much in this,
I watched them as a
like,
kid.
yeah, much in the same way that like Edward did nothing like inherently wrong, everyone else did, you know.
I mean,
It's
did he
their
not?
treatment of Edward that makes him dangerous. Like he's not violent. Like, but people get hurt because they put him in situations where he now, yeah, he's out of his element, and now people get hurt because of course they do.
That's PG.
Like again,
Crap.
when he cuts, uh, when he ends up cutting
Kevin's-
Kevin's face,
Yeah.
it's because he's like he stopped him getting hit by a car. You know, like that. Yeah, I think this whole thing is a metaphor for like, yeah, yeah, filmmakers like Burton himself or like metal bands, like what would happen to like Iron Maiden and AC/DC right before this, and right after guys like Eminem, that they're only controversial because they're mainstream, and they're only mainstream because the mainstream allowed them to be. So why is the mainstream now offended? Yeah, I went deeper on Edward Scissorhands than I did on Fight Club.
Yeah. Well, I do
It's
understand
gonna
where
be
you're
like
coming
that.
Yeah.
I do understand where you're coming from, but shit.
Whether or not it's a successful satire of that is up to debate, I think.
No, from where you're coming from, the whole society will try and make you live within their boundaries. If they don't, they'll try and eliminate you. You're right. But how it was gone about, I don't know. I just. It's weird.
So that does lead us to the central question, though, boys. Is this movie worth watching?
No.
Oh yeah, for sure. I think I've met quite a few people like you, Ty, that haven't liked this movie. But I think it's worth everyone to watch it at least once. And if you don't like it, fair enough. Like I'm not judging you for not liking it. I was just curious why. I think everyone should see it at least once.
Yeah, I think I'm with Josh on that one. It's one. Yeah, it's worth seeing where you personally stand, whether or not this works for you or not.
Mm.
But Ty, I'm guessing you're still going to say no.
Yep.
But follow-up question:
Okay.
you've probably seen this coming by now because you know how the show works. Josh, is this a midnight screening?
Sorry, that question shocked me a bit. I thought you were going to ask me how my day was. Sorry.
No,
No. It's fine.
no, I don't care really.
Is it a midnight screen? I think it's a midnight screening if you're with a group of people that already know they like it. I think it's a film you can put on and chill to at the end of a long day if people are going to enjoy the film. I think if you're with people that haven't seen it yet or are like Ty and don't like it, I wouldn't recommend it for that.
Okay,
So it's a very
it's a
dependable
tentative yes.
question. Yeah.
Hi,
Yeah.
how was your day? No, no, is this a midnight screening, Ty?
I'm going to agree with Josh's point. I'm not saying it is. Personally, I wouldn't watch it. But if there is a group of friends that like it together that want to chill, sure. But, see, that's where I'm at. Like, I want to say no, but if there's like a group of guys that all like the film, a group of people that all like the film, then why shouldn't it be? It's the logic I used on Dragon Ball Evolution. Right, do you know what? I'm going to be fair. I'm going to use the logic I used on Dragon Ball Evolution. It's you, a group of people you're friends with, having a few drinks, watching some movies. By that logic, yes. Even though I hate to say it, yes, it is a midnight movie.
That is I feel like yeah, it's worth bringing up. No, just because you said it, it's worth pointing out.
I'll just quickly say, if you were to bring it up and say, oh, we're going to watch this, I'm like, okay, I'm going to go to the kitchen and get absolutely shit-faced. Me personally. But I'm not going to tell you guys, no, we're not watching it.
I think it's worth bringing up in general that whenever we're doing this part of the show, um, just because we say we don't like something, like we don't recommend something, and you like it, that's fine. If you don't like something we all recommend, that's also fine. If you want to,
No, then you're wrong.
then
Then they're
no,
wrong.
Josh. If like yeah, and again, if you just love a movie that we think personally doesn't work as a midnight screening, but you're still like, no, me and my friends meet up and watch this all the time. That's cool. Like,
Yeah,
it's.
you do you.
I think I said it in my WandaVision video. Like, I genuinely love seeing people enjoy something more than I do. Like, that's great. Anyway, I've not answered the question.
Nathan, is
I
that
would
a midnight
say.
screening?
Thanks, Ty. I would say yes. In a very particular setting. This movie, I don't think it's a minute screening on its own, but if you're doing a few movies, you know, it's winter, right? You've all got like some hot chocolates. You put on Edward Scissorhands first, you know, at like 10. Yeah, to get into like that mindset, you know, it's winter, you know, we're getting into kind of the fun vibe of it. But then you put on like Gremlins, you know, or Die Hard, or you know, something.
I think I'd go with the opposite of that for you. Like I think I'd go with Edward Scissorhands more like the wind down one to kind of like chill out to then. You know, after your Gremlins or your Die Hard.
Either way, we're agreeing it's a double biller type midnight movie.
Yeah,
Triple
yeah.
biller.
Or if you're with a group, but like if it was me and you just hanging out, I think you know Ty wasn't there because he's doing his own thing. Then I think we could pull
Yeah.
that off, you know, because we both love the film. But yeah, it's I think for this film it's a lot more patchy than the definite yes of Dragon Ball.
Yeah, definitely agree. So there you have it. Our first kind of response to whether or not a film is inducted into the Midnight Screening Hall of Fame. Thank you both again for coming on and talking about a weird movie with me. Always thank you to our wonderful editor, IzPrebuilt. I won't gush over him as much as last time because I know it makes him feel uncomfortable.
Dude.
He loves it really.
All our socials will be in the description below. Again, follow me on Instagram, Twitter, and Letterboxd. Follow these two on Instagram. If you're listening to this on Spotify, do check out the Nathan Needs a Username YouTube channel. All these episodes go up on there, plus other cool stuff that I'm doing. And if you're watching YouTube, go follow the Spotify as well. You can listen to the show on the go. That'll be fun for you. Maybe. I don't know. Maybe you hate the show. Don't tell me that, though, because that'll make me feel bad.
Tell me that.
IzPrebuilt. Links will also be in the description. All that's left is Josh. Do you want to give him a hint as to what we're talking about next week?
I spent half an hour trying to figure out how I was going to do this morning. Okay.
Amazing.
Yeah.
As always, you.
I really shouldn't have leaned into this sound.
Wow.
No, you put that on yourself. The bit is just that you
Oh,
have to
I did.
do a clue. You've done the sound effect thing back to yourself.
I'm leaning into it. I'm doubling down.
As always, you'll have to tune in next week to find out what on earth Josh just did and why he did that. Yeah, thank you all for listening. That is our show. We will see you next week.
Bye, guys.